What's up, everybody? And welcome to another edition of High Mythology, the show where we get higher than the tree of the sun when you're trying to creep on its golden apples and tell you guys silly stories from mythology and folklore.
Wow.
Yeah. Tonight, we will be bringing you some folk tales from a place I didn't even know existed. Some Bukovian.
Yes.
Bukovian folktales.
Yes.
Yeah. What did you say? It's east of Romania?
Yes, it's the eastern territory of Romania, and it borders the Ukraine.
Oh, okay. Eastern Romania.
See, it used to be that it was a part of Austria, and then World War I happened, and then it became part of Romania.
Yeah.
And Romania's got like 9 fucking territories, I think.
All of Romania. Yeah. So, we're going to bring you guys a little trio of folk tales here. I hope you enjoy them. Starting off, we're going to be starting with the Snow Daughter and the Fire Son.
Yes.
Yes. Without further ado, Kimbo, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Once upon a time, a man and his wife, they had no children.
Aww.
And it was a great grief to them.
Aww.
One winter's day, when the sun was shining brightly, the couple were standing outside their cottage, and the woman was looking at all the little icicles which hung from the roof. She sighed and turned to her husband and said,
I wish I had as many children as there are icicles hanging there.
Her husband replied,
Well, nothing would please me more.
Then a tiny icicle detached itself from the roof and dropped into the woman's mouth, who swallowed it with a smile and said,
Damn, girl.
I know, right?
Perhaps I shall give birth to a snow child now. That's not how it works. But the snow does owe you $20 for that.
I thought she was just like maybe a master sword swallower, you know what I mean?
She's mastered something, swallower.
Her husband laughed at his wife's strange idea, and then they went back into the house. But after a short time, the woman gave birth to a little girl, who was as white as snow and as cold as ice. If they brought the child anywhere near the fire, it screamed loudly until they put it back into some cool place. The little maid throve wonderfully, and in a few months she could run about and speak. But she was not altogether easy to bring up, and gave her parents much trouble and anxiety. For all the summer she insisted on spending in the cellar, and in the winter she would sleep outside in the snow, and the colder it was, the happier she seemed to be.
I never should have blew that icicle.
Her father and mother simply called her our Snow Daughter, and the name stuck to her all her life. One day her parents sat by the fire talking over the extraordinary behavior of their daughter, who was wandering about in the snowstorm that raged outside. The woman sighed deeply and said,
I wish I had given birth to a fire son.
And as she said these words, a spark from the big wood fire flew into the woman's lap, and she said with a laugh,
Oh, this is big wood. Oh, yes. Perhaps I'll give birth to a fire son.
The man laughed at his wife's words. And thought it was a good joke. But he ceased to think it was a joke when his wife shortly afterwards gave birth to a boy, who screamed with such intenseness till he was put quite close to the fire, and who nearly yelled himself into a fit of if the Snow Daughter had come anywhere near him. So the Snow Daughter, herself avoided him as well as much as she could. And she always crept into a corner as far away from him as possible. The parents called the boy simply our Fire Son, a name which stuck to him all of his life. They had a great deal of trouble and worry with him too, but he throve and grew very quickly, and before he was a year old... Yeah. Old English Rich. And before he was a year old, he could run about and talk. He was as red as fire and as hot to touch. Sorry. And he always sat on the hearth. The hearth. Quite close to the fire, and complained of the cold. If his sister were in the room, he almost crept into the flames, while the girl on her part was always complaining about how great heat her brother were whenever that she was near. Anyway, in the summer, the boy always laid out in the sun, while the girl hid herself in the cellar. So it happened that the brother and sister came into very little contact with each other. In fact, they carefully avoided it. COVID.
Carefully avoided it. Social distancing.
Just as the girl grew up into a beautiful woman, her father and mother both died, one after the other. And then the fire son, who had grown up in the meantime into a fine, strong young man, said to his sister,
"Well, I'm going out into the world. What's the point of staying here?"
She answered,
"I shall go with you, for besides you, I have no one. And I have a feeling that if we stick together, we will be lucky."
And so the fire son said,
I love you with all my heart, but at the same time, I will freeze if you're near me. And you nearly die of heat if I approach you. How should we travel together without being odious to one another?
His sister replied,
"Don't worry about that. I have thought it all out, and I have settled on a plan which will make us both able to bear with the other. See, I have made each of us special fur coats."
"Hey."
"Yeah, fancy. When we put them on..." Wait, what did you make them out of?
Didn't say. This is a shortened version. Yeah. I'm sure it explains it in greater detail.
They're made out of pubic hair.
Maybe. Maybe she eventually ventured out in the summer heat and found some fucking rocks to sew with.
Rocks.
I don't know.
I skinned a rock. Okay.
These are the Firestones.
Yeah.
Lava rocks.
Lava rocks.
I don't know.
I went to town and paid 15 men $5 apiece for their pubic hairs.
Jesus.
When we put them on, it keeps you warm and unable to feel the cold. And mine, I will feel only the cold and no one.
And so they put on the fur coats and set out cheerfully along their way, and for the first time in their lives, quite happy in each other's company.
Happy together. For
a long time, the fire son and the snow daughter wandered through the world, and when at the beginning of winter they came to a big wood, they determined to stay there till spring. The fire son built himself a hut where he always kept a huge fire, while his sister, with very few clothes on, stayed outside at night and day. Now it happened one day that the king of the land held a hunt in this wood, and saw the snow daughter wandering about in the open air. He wondered very much who the beautiful girl clad in such garments could be, and he stopped and spoke to her, and he soon learned that she could not stand heat, and that her brother could not endure the cold. So the king was so charmed by this snow daughter that he had asked her to be his wife. The girl consented. And the wedding was held with much state. The king had a huge house made of ice for his wife built underground, so that even in the summer it did not melt. But for his brother-in-law he had built him a house with huge ovens all around it that were kept heated all day and night. The fire son was super delighted. But the perpetual heat in which he lived made his body so hot that it was dangerous to get too close to him.
He's so hot.
One day the king gave a great feast and asked his brother-in-law among the other guests. The fire son did not appear until everyone had assembled, and when he did, everyone fled outside to the open air. So intense was the heat that he gave forth. Then the king was very angry and said,
"If I had known what trouble you were going to be, I would have never taken you into my home, you fiery bastard."
Then the fire son replied with a laugh,
"Don't be angry, dear brother. I love heat. My sister loves the cold. Come on here and let me embrace you, then I will go home."
And before the king had time to reply, the fire son seized him in a tight embrace. The king screamed aloud in agony, and when his wife, the snow daughter, who had taken refuge from her brother in the next room, hurried to him, the king lay dead on the ground, burnt to a cinder. When the snow daughter saw this, she turned on her brother and flew at him. Then a fight began, the likes of which they had never seen on earth. When the people, attracted by the noise, hurried to the spot, they saw the snow daughter melting into water, and the fire son burnt to a cinder. And so ended the unhappy brother and sister. The end.
They all died.
And then they were all very unhappy.
And then they all died.
And that's it.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was pretty dark. Took a dark twist at the end. I was like, oh, they're gonna go live happily ever after with this king.
Yeah,
they're gonna burn him to death and then fight over in his body.
There's no happy ending in these stories.
Happy ending.
They don't believe in that.
Where is it? Bulgaria?
Bukovia.
In Bukovia, there is no happy.
Jesus.
Happy is you burn to death or melt into ice.
Alright, next song.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get happier. Our next story is called The Death of the Sun Hero.
Sorry, I guess.
Yeah, Kim's excited about that.
It's actually, I like this story a lot, actually. I don't know. It kind of cracks me up. Because it just is so unexpected. You're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's not till the end, sorry guys.
But it's not till the end. Spoilers!
Many, many thousands of years ago, there lived a mighty king whom heaven had blessed with a clever and beautiful son. When he was only 10 years old, the boy was more clever than all the king's counselors put together. And when he was 20, he was the greatest hero in the whole kingdom. His father could not make enough of his son, and always had him clothed in golden garments in which shone and sparkled like the sun.
Sparkly.
And his mother gave him a white horse, which never slept and flew like the wind.
Yeah, a white horse that's on a bunch of cocaine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Horse steroids.
Horse steroids. I've been up for fucking 17 days, man. I fly. I'm a flying horse.
All the people in the land loved him dearly and called him the Sun Hero, for they did not think anyone like him existed under the sun. Now it happened that one night that both his parents had the same extraordinary dream. They dreamt of a girl all dressed in red had come to them and said,
if you really wish that your son should really become the Sun Hero in truth, and not only in name, you need to let him go out into the world and search for the Tree of the Sun. And when he has found it, let him pluck a golden apple or two and bring it home.
When the king and queen had each related their dreams to the other, they were much amazed that they should have both have dreamt of the exact same thing about their son. And the king said to his wife,
This is clearly a sign from heaven, that we should send our son out into the world in order that he may come home, the great Sun Hero, as the red girl said in my dreams, not only in name, but in truth.
The queen consented with many tears, and the king at once bade his son...
It just sounds so bad. She consented with many tears.
That is true.
So she said no, and he said, I don't give a fuck.
Oh my god. Yeah. I guess I never even registered it in my brain when I was reading it like 3 times. I'm like, Yep.
Yeah. I don't think our son should go. I didn't ask your opinion.
The king at once bade his son to go set forth in search of the Tree of the Sun, from which he was to pluck the golden apple. The prince was delighted at the prospect and set out on his travels that very day. For a long time he wandered all throughout the world, and it was not till the 99th day after he started that he found an old man who was able to tell him where the Tree of Sun grew. He followed his directions and rode on
a lot of history down
and rode on his way. And after another 99 days he arrived at a golden castle, which stood in the middle of a vast wilderness. He knocked at the door, which was opened noiselessly by invisible hands. Finding no one about, the prince rode on and came to a great meadow where the sun tree grew. What?
Sun tree.
There's no way.
Oh, he went into... Yeah. What's up? What's up? Is he lost? Did he get lost?
I just felt like there was more to this story.
Oh, well, you never know. There's always more in the subtext.
I feel like he couldn't have found the golden castle and just...
He just found it. Yep, an old man told him where it was and he found it.
Is there an old man next for you?
No, but you said he met an old man.
I guess that's the third story. Sorry, I just got confused on my stories.
You got confused.
Sorry, they all blend kind of together. They're very similar.
Very similar.
But they're not. And yet they are. So yeah, he arrived at the golden castle, which stood in the middle of the vast wilderness. Whatever, he fucking found the tree.
Whatever, he fucking found the tree. That's how the story should have gone. Yeah. He met an old man. The old man told him some shit. Whatever, he fucking found the tree.
When he reached the tree, he put out his hand to pick a golden apple. That's where we are. But all of a sudden, the tree grew higher and taller and wider. And soon the fucking apples were like 300 fucking feet up in the air. So that he could not reach its fruits. Then he heard someone behind him laughing. Turning around, he saw the girl in red walking towards him, who addressed him with these words.
Oh, honey, did you really think that you could just pluck an apple like that from the tree of the sun? It's the fucking tree of the sun. I mean, come on. Before you can do that, you'll have a difficult task before you. You must guard the tree for 9 days and 9 nights from the ravages of the 2 wild black wolves, who will try to harm it. Why wolves are eating a tree, I don't fucking know. It's a story.
Sounds like something Odin.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Do you think you can undertake this task?
The sun hero said.
Oh, yeah, I think I could do that there. I'll just guard the tree of sun for 9 days and 9 nights.
So the girl continued.
A warning, though. If you do not succeed, the sun will fucking kill you. Now you begin your watch.
With these words, the red girl went back into the golden castle. She had hardly left him when the 2 black wolves appeared, but the sun hero beat them off with his sword, and they retired, only, however, to reappear in a very short time. The sun hero chased them away once more, but he had hardly sat down to rest when the 2 black wolves were on the scene again. This went on for 7 days and nights, when the white horse, who had never done such a thing before, turned to the sun hero and said...
Listen to what I'm...
in a human voice.
In a human voice. Hey man, listen to what I'm going to say. A fairy gave me to your mother in order that I may be of service to you. Since then, they've been pumping me full of amphetamine, so I am fucking wired, man. I never sleep. So let me tell you that if you go to sleep and you let those wolves harm the tree, the sun will surely kill you, like for fucking sure. I've seen him murk dudes before for nothing. The fairy, foreseeing this, put everyone under a spell, and that like prevents their obeying the sun's command to take your life. But all the same, she had forgotten one person who will certainly kill you if you fall asleep, and let the wolves damage the tree. So watch out and keep the fucking wolves away, man.
Definitely sound like you're on crack.
Yeah.
Then the sun hero strove with all of his might and kept the black wolves at bay and conquered his desire to sleep. But on the 8th night, his strength failed him, and he fell fast asleep.
I can't beat off these wolves anymore.
And when he awoke, a woman in black stood beside him, who said,
You have fulfilled your task poorly, for you have let the 2 wolves damage the tree of the sun. I am the mother of the sun, and I command you to ride away from here at once. And I sentence death upon you, for you proudly let yourself be called the sun hero, without ever having done anything to deserve the name, you son of a bitch.
The youth mounted his horse sadly and rode home. The people gathered all around him on his return, anxious to hear of his adventures. But he told them nothing, and only to his mother did he confide what had befallen him. But the queen laughed and said to her son,
Don't worry, my child. You see, the fairy has protected you so far, and the sun has found no one to kill you. So cheer up and be happy.
After a time, the prince forgot all about his adventures and married a beautiful princess, with whom he lived very happily for some time. But one day, when he was out hunting, he felt very thirsty, and coming to a stream, he scooped down to drink it, and this caused his death. For a crab came swimming up with its claws tore out his tongue.
People.
So yeah, the crab came up swimming
Cha-cha-cha-cha!
with his claws, tore out his tongue, and then he was carried home in a dying condition. And as he lay on his deathbed, the black woman appeared and said,
So, the sun has after all found someone who was not under the fairy's spell, who has caused your death. And a similar fate will overtake everyone under the sun who wrongfully assumes a title to which he has no right. Punk bitches.
The end.
The end. And that's why you don't call yourself anything you're
So
not.
like it could grab to kill them.
Just out of nowhere. I'm gonna get a drink out of this stream. It's not even a freshwater crab. I want to hear the crab's journey. He's traveled thousands of miles to kill that person.
I know. I'm super
The fairy
curious.
queen took his crab family hostage.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, she had to have something over his head.
Okay. Last one.
Okay, last one. I'm assuming this one's going to be light and upbeat and no one's going to die. Yeah. It's called The Flower Queen's Daughter.
Yeah. Okay. A young prince was riding one day. Oh, fuck.
Oh, fuck.
A young prince was riding one day through a meadow that stretched for miles in front of him. When he came to a deep open ditch, he was turning aside to avoid it when he heard the sounds of someone
Sneezing.
crying in the ditch. Sorry.
They were sneezing in the ditch.
He dismounted from his horse and stepped along in the direction of the sound that it came from. To his astonishment, he found an old woman who begged him to help her out of the ditch. The prince bent down to lift her out of her living grave, and asking her at the same time how she had managed to get there. The old woman said,
My son, I am a very poor woman, and soon after midnight I set out for the neighboring town so that I could sell my eggs in the market on the following morning. But I lost my way in the dark and fell into this deep ditch here, where I might have remained if not for your kindness.
Dude, she has to walk to a neighboring country. That she gets to the next morning after.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I think she's a little senile.
So the prince said to her,
Lady, that's not a case of eggs. Those are melons.
Then the
tree eggs.
Prince says to her,
You can hardly walk. I will put you on my horse and lead you home. Where do you live?
Though the old woman replies,
Over there at your mom's house. Over there at the edge of the forest. The little hut you see in the distance.
now you know she's senile. She's only made it that far. She didn't recognize.
It's 15 steps. The stitch gets me every time.
Wow.
Is it because you walk directly into the ditch?
The prince lifted her onto his horse, and soon they reached the hut, where the old woman got down and turning to the prince said,
Wait here just a moment and I'll give you something.
And she disappeared into her hut, but returned very soon and said,
You are a mighty prince, but at the same time you have a kind heart, which deserves a reward. Would you like to have the most beautiful woman in the world for your wife? And she throws her robe onto the ground.
The prince
take out my
replies,
teeth and I'll show you something you've never seen before.
The prince replies.
Oh, certainly I would.
So the old woman starts to strip. I literally had that written in there.
She just starts to trip.
Just kidding.
She just throws a rope. Take me.
The woman continued to say,
The most beautiful woman in the world is the daughter of the Queen of Flowers, who has been captured by a dragon. If you wish to marry her, you must first set her free. And this I will help you to do. I will give you this little bell. If you ring it, ding, 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 once, the king of the eagles will appear. If you ring it twice, ding, 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 the king of the foxes will come near. And if you ring it 3 times, ding, you will see the king of the fishes by your side. These will help you if you are in trouble. Now farewell, and heaven prosper your undertaking. I'm gonna go sell these eggs.
Too many tears. Oh my god. I don't know if I can keep reading. Hang on. Ding. It's like, wow.
Drop, I followed in the ditch again.
3 dings for 1. Okay. I'm sorry. Wow. She handed him the little bell and then disappeared, hut and all, as though the earth had swallowed her up. Wow. Then it dawned on the prince that he had been speaking to a good fairy, and putting the little bell carefully into his pocket.
He wasn't a bad fairy.
Like, what was his name? The Crunch.
A bad fairy. Yeah.
Jesus.
You want something? I won't give you a beautiful woman. I'll give you cigarettes.
You're an ugly crop-headed woman.
Yeah. I'll give you cigarettes and a bad haircut. I'm a bad fairy.
Wow. He rode home and told his father that he meant to set the daughter of the Flower Queen free, and intended on setting out to following day into the wild world and search for the maid. So the next morning, the prince mounted his fine horse and left his home.
Fine-ass horse.
He had roamed round the world for a whole year, and his horse had died of exhaustion. Asshole. While he himself had suffered much.
That was a fine horse.
He had suffered much from want and misery, but still he had found no trace of her. At last, one day he came to a hut, and in front of it sat a very old man. The prince asked him,
Do you know where the dragon lives, who keeps the daughter of the Flower Queen prisoner?
The old man says,
Nope, I do not. But if you go straight along this road for a year or so, you'll reach a hut where my father lives. Possibly he may be able to tell you. Possibly.
The prince thanked him for his information and continued his journey for a whole year along the same road. And at the end of it he came to a little hut, where he found a very old man. He asked him the same question, and the old man answered,
No, I do not know where the dragon lives. But straight down this road, for about another year, you'll come to my father's hut, and I know he can tell you.
So the prince wandered on for another year, always on the same road, and at last reached the hut where he had found the third old man. He put the same question to him he had put to his son and his grandson, but this time the old man answered,
Huh? The dragon lives up there on that mountain there, and he had just begun his year of sleep. Huh? For 1 year he's always up awake. The next he sleeps. But if you wish to see the Flower Queen's daughter, go up to the second mountain. Dragon's old mother lives there, and she has a ball every night. She's just a baller. To which the Flower Queen daughter goes regularly. Now take a Werther's original with you.
So the prince went up to the second mountain, which he had found the castle, all made of gold and diamond windows. He opened the big gate leading to the courtyard and was just going to walk in when 7 dragons rushed on him, and they asked him what he wanted. The prince replied,
I have heard so much of the beauty and kindness of the dragon's mother, and I would like to enter her service.
This flattering speech pleased the dragons, and the eldest of them said,
You may come with me, and I will take you to the mother dragon.
They entered the castle and walked through 12 splendid halls, all made with gold and with diamonds. In the 12th room they had found the mother dragon seated on a diamond throne. She was the ugliest woman under the sun, and added it to all, she had 3 heads. Her appearance was a great shock to the prince, and so was her voice, which was like a croaking of many ravens. She asked him,
"Hey, honey, do you mind if I smoke?" "What brings you up here?"
The prince answered at once,
"I have heard so much of your beauty and kindness that I would very much like to enter your service."
The mother dragon said,
"Oh, very well, but that won't be the only thing you're entering." "If you wish to enter my service, you must first lead my mare out to the meadow and look after her for 3 days. But if you don't bring her home safely every evening, I'll gobble you up, because I'm a total gobbler."
For dick.
Yeah, I'm a total cock gobbler. So I hope you're ready for that.
The prince undertook the task and led the mare out into the meadows. But no sooner had they reached the grass than she vanished. The prince sought her in vain, and at last, in despair, sat down on a big stone and contemplated his sad fate. As he sat, thus lost in thought, he noticed an eagle flying overhead. Then he suddenly bethought to himself of his little bell, and taking it out of his pocket, he rang it once. In a moment, he heard a rustling sound in the air beside him, and the king of the eagles sank at his feet.
"Doth my eyes deceive me?"
Did that sound weird? Okay. The bird said,
"Wah! I know what you want of me. You are looking for the mother dragon's mare, who is galloping about among the clouds. Rack, I will summon all of the eagles together. We'll have a badass concert."
I think eagles have more of a screech, not a balk. Balk sounds like a chicken.
I can't make an eagle noise. You busted me.
And with these words, the king of the eagles flew away.
Joe
You might
Walsh,
say cluck
good
cluck.
night. Cluck cluck. Cluck cluck.
Towards evening, the prince heard a mighty rushing sound in the air. And when
Was
he
it
looked
Life's
up,
Been Good?
yes.
Yeah.
And when he looked up, he saw thousands of eagles.
California.
I was thinking Bon Jovi. Sorry.
The Eagles.
When he looked up, he saw thousands of eagles driving the mare before them. They sank at his feet to the ground and gave the mare over to him. And then the prince rode home on the old mother dragon.
I've had a bad day and I hate the
On her
fucking
horse.
Eagles, man.
Who was full of wonder when she saw him and said,
Oh, hi there, honey. You have succeeded today in looking after my mare. And as a reward, you shall come to my ball tonight. Maybe I'll come to yours, if you know what I mean.
At the same time, she gave him a cloak made of copper and led him to a big room where several young he-dragons and she-dragons were all dancing together.
It's a dragon party.
Here, too, was the Flower
Eagles are
Queen's...
playing.
Was the Flower Queen's beautiful daughter. Her dress was woven out of the most loveliest flowers in the world, and her complexion was like lilies and roses. As the prince was dancing with her, he managed to whisper in her ear,
I have come to set you free.
Then the beautiful girl said to him,
Well, that's kind of rude of you to assume that I need you to come set me free.
Okay.
If you succeed in bringing the mare back safely on the 3rd day, ask the mother dragon to give you a foal of the mare as a reward.
Do you like my version? Okay.
Okay.
The ball came to an end.
I don't need no man.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The ball came to an end at midnight, and early next morning the prince led the mother dragon's mare out into the meadows. But again she vanished before his eyes. Then he took out his little bell and rang it twice. In a moment the king of foxes stood before him and said,
Oh, hey there, buddy. I already know what you want there. You heard it from the eagle the other day that you're having trouble with that mare, so I'll just go ahead and summon up all my fox friends together and we'll find the mare who is hidden herself in a hill over yonder.
And with these words the king of foxes disappeared, and in the evening many thousands of foxes brought the mare to the prince. Then he rode home to the mother dragon, from whom he received this time a cloak made of silver, and again she led him to the ballroom. The Flower Queen's daughter was delighted to see him safe and sound, and when they were dancing together, she whispered in his ear,
"If you succeed again tomorrow, wait for me with the ball in the meadow after the ball, and we'll do hand stuff. I mean, fly away together."
"Okay."
Okay.
On the third day, the prince led the mare into the meadow again, but once more she vanished before his eyes. Then the prince took out the bell and rang it 3 times. In a moment, the king of fishes appeared and said to him,
"Blub, blub, blub. I know quite well what you want me to do, and I will summon all the fish of the sea together, and tell them to bring you back the mare, who is hiding herself in a river. Blurp, blurp."
Towards evening, the mare was returned to him, and when he led her home to the mother dragon, she said to him,
"Oh, honey, you are such a brave youth. I will make you my body servant." If you know what that means.
"I do."
"But shall I give you as a reward to begin with? What shall I give you as a reward to begin with?" I'm thinking fellatio.
The prince begged for a foal.
Anything but that. Anything but that.
He begged for a foal of the mare, which the mother dragon at once gave him, and over and above a cloak made of gold, for she had fallen in love with him because he had praised for her beauty. So in the evening he appeared at the ball in his golden cloak, but before the entertainment was over he slipped away and went straight to the stables, where he mounted his foal and rode out into the meadows to wait for the Flower Queen's daughter.
Ooh, she said hand stuff.
Towards midnight the beautiful girl appeared, and placing her in front of him on his horse, the prince and her flew off like the wind until they reached the Flower Queen's dwelling. But the dragons had noticed their flight and woke their brothers out of his year sleep. He flew into a terrible rage when he had heard what happened,
Guys, I don't like it when you wake me up.
And was determined to lay siege on the Flower Queen's palace. But the queen caused a forest of flowers as high as the sky to grow up around her dwelling, though which no one could force away.
You can't force away flowers, dragon. Peace wins, brother. Peace always wins, brother.
When the Flower Queen heard that her daughter wanted to marry the prince, she said to him,
"I will give my consent to your marriage gladly, but you should probably ask my daughter for her fucking consent. She don't need no man."
"Apparently.
"But my daughter can only stay with you in the summer. In the winter, when everything is dead and the ground is covered in snow, she must come and live with me in my palace underground."
The prince consented to this.
"I consent."
And led his beautiful bride home.
"I tearfully consent."
Where the wedding was held with a great pomp and magnificence. The young couple lived happily together until winter came, and the Flower Queen's daughter departed and went home to her mother. In the summer she returned to her husband, and their life with joy and happiness began again, and lasted till the approach of winter, when the Flower Queen's daughter went back again to her mother. This coming and going continued all her life long, and in spite, it always lived happily together. The end.
The end. Oh, that was a happy-ish story. That one wasn't as bad as the other two.
Yeah, it was clearly by 2 different people.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
This was a little nicer, a little calmer on the palate. No one got murdered. No one got killed by the sun and called a little bitch boy for making up his name.
No.
Yeah. So we've learned some great morals tonight. Don't call yourself something you're not.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pretty big one.
Fire and ice
don't mix. Yeah. And that created a family murder scenario.
Yeah.
that really didn't mix.
Yeah.
And also, if you're going to steal a princess from a dragon lady, you best be prepared to take one for the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we all know he did. We all know he had to at some point.
I mean, okay.
You don't mind if I don't stop smoking my cigarette, right?
Blow little hearts at him.
Yeah.
I got you, baby.
Yeah. The stories were The Snow Daughter and The Fire Son, and The Death of the Sun Hero. And those were both by Andy Lang. And then The Flower Queen's Daughter was by the old school guys, the Brothers Grimm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Clearly by two separate authors.
Two separate authors. I see how one is the place that Disney steals for movies, and the other one is not ever going to make Disney movies.
Right? And like, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, this one would be a great fucking...
Yeah. Disney, if you make that movie...
I mean, maybe
Call
that's
me,
what
baby.
Shrek was about.
That's what Shrek was about. Maybe. That's the dragon woman. It's the one that the donkey ended up with.
Yeah, I mean, like, that doesn't really... nothing happens really to the dragon. He's just pissed.
Yeah.
Tries to attack a flower palace.
And now they just block him with flowers. Like,
Flower
if she could
dome.
do that, why didn't she always do that? Flower dome powers, activate!
I mean, you know what I mean?
He's like, fuck,
It
thanks.
sounds
I have
more like-
allergies.
I feel like the flowers are more like those technological things where, like, you know, like in Spider-Man.
They all just interlock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like one of those.
I think that
Or not
the
Spider-Man,
the
what was the
dragon
I think it would be the Star People.
oh yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. I think the truth is that the dragon's not nearly as tough as he let on.
He's really
he
got the
gets grumpy
strength
when
of,
he
like...
wakes up, and then he goes to leave, and he just sees the flowers, and he's like, "Ugh, I have allergies."
He's got like the strength of a toddler.
Yeah, I'm dragon with the strength of a human toddler.
You can easily knock me on my ass with one punch.
I can't walk very well. Yeah.
Don't push me too hard.
Don't push me too hard. I have allergies. I don't like flowers. It's too sunny out. It's supposed to be my nap time. I'm going back to bed.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Well, I hope you folks have enjoyed that. Oh, yeah. Our reference for this, Fairy Tales with the Z. Fairytales.com. Yeah. Hope you folks enjoyed.
Yeah.
It was a good, fun couple of stories from a place, like I said, I did not know existed. But
Bukovia.
Bukovia, Eastern Romania. So,
Yeah.
good, fun stories. I like their style.
Yeah,
I like their style. They're kind of dark, but Eastern Romania seems like a dark place.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where Dracula lives.
Yeah. Maybe you should do that one.
Dracula.
Maybe you can finally get around to the Monkey King.
Yeah, one of these days. One of these days, folks. It's coming, I promise. Yeah, be sure to like, subscribe, follow. Find us on Twitter at Howley Boys. That's HAOLE_boys.
With an S?
With an S.
Okay.
Yeah. Give us a shout out. Let us know what you think.
You can also find us on YouTube.
Yeah, we always appreciate the feedback.
Anywhere you get your podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, be sure to let other people know. Word of mouth is the best form of traveling ever. So if you do a ventriloquist act, just make them say our name.
This is true.
Yeah.
And the longer I can spend time making my son happy by reading these stories out loud to him, the more money I can make off of it. And then I don't have to work on my other job anymore. I can just do this all the time.
Yeah, that's the dream.
That's the dream.
Yeah. Well, you folks have a good night.
Have a good night.